Picture this, 1947, a windowless room in Washington. Men in dark suits signing documents that would change history forever. They're creating something the world has never seen before, an agency with no armies, no borders, and almost no accountability. Its mission? Protect America through information.
The CIA has now released 19,000 pages of classified intelligence briefings that took place during some of the darkest days of the 1960s.
But here's what they didn't tell you. Within months, that mission transformed into something far more dangerous. Because this agency was quietly handed a power that bypasses Congress, elections, and even international law. The authority to reshape the world in secret, topple governments without firing a shot, erase leaders from power, conduct experiments that sound like science fiction, operate prisons that don't officially exist, and when everything goes sideways, shred the evidence and deny it ever happened. This isn't conspiracy theory territory. Every detail you're about to hear comes directly from the CIA's own archives, documents they fought for decades to keep buried, classified memos, operation manuals, internal confessions, the paper trail they never meant for you to see. Right now, we're going back to that room in 1947, to the exact moment this machinery was set in motion. And minute by minute, we're going to follow the trail it carved across continents, starting with one decision that rewrote the rules of power itself. Because what began as a shield became a weapon, and once that weapon was forged, there was no turning back. The birth of secret power. America stands at a crossroads. The guns of World War II have barely cooled, but a new conflict is already taking shape. One fought not on battlefields, but in whispers, back rooms, and shadows. Washington is convinced that traditional warfare is over. The real threat now? Invisible enemies working in the dark. The response seems reasonable enough. Congress passes the National Security Act, birthing the Central Intelligence Agency. On the surface, its role appears almost academic. Gather intelligence worldwide, connect the dots, brief decision makers. A research institution with a national security badge. Then comes the fine print. Buried in deliberately vague language sits a phrase that changes everything. Authorization for covert actions. Two innocent-sounding words that unlock a Pandora's box. It means operations designed to alter reality overseas while leaving America's fingerprints nowhere to be found. No soldiers in formation. No official declarations, no trail leading back to Washington. Success gets quietly celebrated. Failure, it never happened. This is the inflection point, the moment the CIA evolves from analyst to actor, from observer to architect. Deep within the agency's walls, a shadow division crystallizes, the clandestine service. Its mandate isn't to understand the world anymore, it's to bend it. Elections can be tilted with the right pressure. Governments can be destabilized with strategic chaos. Inconvenient leaders can simply disappear from the equation. All while the American public reads the morning paper, completely unaware. The truly terrifying part, the guardrails are almost non-existent. The CIA reports directly to the president, operates behind classification walls so thick that even cabinet members are kept in the dark about its complete activities. There are no congressional committees demanding answers, no journalists connecting dots, no oversight worth mentioning. By the late 1940s, the infrastructure is complete. The legal boundaries are deliberately blurred. The agency has its blank check, and it's about to cash it. The blueprint, Iran and Guatemala. Iran, 1953. The testing ground arrives in the form of a crisis in Iran. Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, democratically elected and widely popular, commits what Washington and London consider an unforgivable sin. He nationalizes Iranian oil. Suddenly, resources that Western corporations had controlled for decades are under Iranian sovereignty. In the Cold War calculus, this isn't just economics. It's an emergency requiring a surgical solution. The declassified files reveal an operation of stunning precision. CIA planners don't just sketch out a rough strategy, they engineer social chaos like architects designing a building. The memos detail their assets on the ground, propaganda networks ready to flood Iranian media, fake news stories planted through sympathetic newspapers, anonymous threatening letters designed to spread paranoia, and the capacity to manufacture street violence on command. Working in lockstep with British MI6, the CIA funnels money to demonstrators, weaponizes disinformation, and systematically convinces key military commanders that their loyalty should shift. In August 1953, the government collapses. Mossadegh is arrested. The Shah returns as an autocrat with absolute authority. Inside Langley, champagne corks pop. The operation proves a revolutionary concept. You can delete a government with a small team, a black budget, and no conventional military involvement whatsoever. The playbook is written. Guatemala, 1954. 12 months later, Guatemala becomes the second experiment. President Jacobo Arbenz introduces agrarian reforms that redistribute unused land to impoverished farmers. Unfortunately, that unused land belongs to the United Fruit Company, an American corporation with powerful friends in Washington. The CIA brands Arbenz a communist threat and launches Operation PBSUC-ESS with approximately $2.7 million earmarked specifically for psychological warfare and political sabotage. But the Guatemalan files reveal something even more chilling than Iran. Among the operational materials sits a document that still haunts historians, a study of assassination, 19 pages of clinical instructions on how to kill using everyday objects, written specifically to ensure plausible denial. Methods include staged accidents, untraceable poisons, and making murders look like suicides. While the CIA later claimed these techniques were never deployed, the agency simultaneously compiled disposal lists, catalogs of Guatemalan citizens marked for elimination. Arbenz flees the country. A military junta seizes control. In the blood-soaked decades that follow, over 100,000 civilians are killed in what becomes one of Latin America's most brutal civil conflicts. Iran and Guatemala aren't just operations, they're templates, proof of concept, evidence that regime change can be planned like a marketing campaign, executed with precision and repeated whenever American interests demand it. With that validation, the CIA is about to push its secrecy into even darker territory, the mind control era, MKULTRA. By the mid-1950s, the CIA has internalized two dangerous truths. First, total secrecy provides total freedom. Second, nobody is coming to stop them. That toxic combination births one of the most disturbing chapters in American intelligence history, Project MKULTRA. The official description sounds almost academic. Research into enhanced interrogation and behavioral science. The reality is a sprawling web of sub-projects obsessed with a single question. Can the human mind be controlled? Not influenced, not persuaded, controlled. The goal is as blunt as it is horrifying. Create assets who can be programmed like machines or shatter prisoners' minds so completely they become incapable of deception. If successful, the CIA believes it can manufacture the perfect spy or extract any secret from any person. The methods read like a horror anthology. LSD administered in massive, repeated doses. Hypnosis experiments attempting to implant false memories. Sensory deprivation chambers designed to fracture psychological stability. Extreme stress positions and sleep deprivation. Electroshock therapy without consent. The test subjects, they're not volunteers. Federal prisoners are used without their knowledge. Hospital patients become unwitting experiments. Ordinary citizens are dosed and observed. Many never learn they were part of MKULTRA at all. The program's architect, Sidney Gottlieb, later nicknamed America's Poisoner-in-Chief, personally signs off on experiments that would be unthinkable in any ethical framework. One case crystallizes the horror. Frank Olson, a biochemist working for the Army, attends what he thinks is a routine CIA retreat in 1953. Without his knowledge, Gottlieb's team spikes his drink with LSD. Days later, Olson plunges from a New York hotel window to his death. The official verdict: suicide. But Olson's family has fought that conclusion for 70 years. Investigations decades later revealed evidence of a cover-up. His death becomes a symbol of how far the agency was willing to go when convinced that secrecy equals immunity. Meanwhile, the same institutional mindset that produced MKULTRA also generated assassination manuals in Guatemala. The CIA is operating with a God complex, certain that classification will shield any action, no matter how unconscionable. And for years, it does. But that confidence is about to collide with a disaster so public, so catastrophic, that even walls of secrecy can't contain it. The collapse. Bay of Pigs. By 1961, the CIA has convinced itself it's mastered the dark arts of covert regime change. Iran worked flawlessly. Guatemala succeeded. Castro's Cuba is simply next in line. The plan follows the proven formula: recruit Cuban exiles, train them as a guerrilla force, establish a beachhead, trigger a popular uprising, and watch Castro's government crumble from within. It's ambitious but familiar. On paper, every element clicks into place. The operation, codenamed Project J-Mark, becomes one of the CIA's most expensive undertakings. Training camps sprout in the Guatemalan jungle. Radio Swan broadcasts anti-Castro propaganda across the Caribbean. Agents move weapons, supplies, and fighters into position like chess pieces. The budget for fiscal year 1961 alone exceeds $13 million, a staggering sum at the time. Both President Eisenhower and his successor, John F. Kennedy, give their approval. But as always, the operational details remain locked inside Langley, shielded from meaningful scrutiny. Then everything implodes. April 17, 1961. Roughly 1,400 Cuban exiles storm ashore at the Bay of Pigs. The promised air support is scaled back at the 11th hour due to political concerns. The anticipated popular uprising never materializes. Cuban citizens don't rally to the invaders, they fight against them. Within 72 hours, the invasion force is crushed. The defeat is public, undeniable, and humiliating on a global scale. The CIA's carefully constructed image of invisible competence shatters like glass. An internal Inspector General report later eviscerates the agency's planning, calling out catastrophic overconfidence and failures at every level. President Kennedy is reportedly enraged, vowing to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. For the first time, the machinery of secret power is exposed in broad daylight. The illusion of control evaporates. But this is just the beginning of the unraveling. In the decades that follow, congressional investigations peel back layer after layer of secrecy. Assassination plots against foreign leaders, illegal domestic surveillance operations, the full scope of MKULTRA's horrors, the Iran-Contra scandal showing the CIA financing covert wars through illegal arms sales. And after 9/11, revelations about secret prisons and interrogation techniques that cross into torture. Each scandal follows the same pattern: exposure, outrage, promises of reform, then a slow fade back into the shadows. The CIA survives every revelation. It adapts, rebrands, and continues operating. But its shadow grows longer with each exposure, stretching across decades and continents. What began in 1947 as a promise to protect America through information became something far more complex. A secret architecture of power that operates in the space between law and accountability, between national security and moral boundaries. That architecture still stands today. and the questions it raises about power, secrecy, and democracy remain as urgent now as they were in that windowless room in 1947.